What's poppin', people? It's your boy Eric Drell back with another Magic the Gathering video. We're going to do more set review of Core Set 2021. You click the video, you know what's going on. So let's hop right into it. First up, we got Battle Rattle Shaman, 3 in a red. It's a 2/2 Goblin Shaman and uncommon. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you may have a target creature get +2/+0 until end of turn. So this is actually pretty good in aggressive decks. Just might enable an attack you didn't have before, or just push through some extra damage. Right away when you play this, the first combat, you get the ability, so that's awesome. I think it's a B. Like I am happy to have this in any red. Aggressive deck can become 4 power by itself, or give something else 4 power or 2 more power. So I just like it. So I think it's a B. And you could first pick it in kind of a bad back. Next up, we got Bolt Hound, which for 2 and a red is a 2/2 elemental dog at uncommon. It has haste, and whenever Bolt Hound attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. This is kind of funny because it reminds me of a Pokemon named Bolt Hound, which is an electric doggo. So shout out to my Pokemon fans out there, all 2 of you. And this is solid. This really pushes through a lot of damage. 3 mana 2/2 haste is not bad, and it gives all your other attackers +1. So I do like this one. I think it's a B as well as the Battle Rattle Shaman. So yeah, wouldn't be afraid to first pick this, especially if you want to like force aggro. Next up, we got Bone Pit Brute for 4 4 red is a Cyclops at common. It's a 4/5. Has menace, and when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +4/+0 until end of turn. So kind of like the Battle Rattle, it gives something more power, a lot of power actually, and this could win the game if you put it on a flyer or something. But that is nice. The fail case is that it gives itself the power and then it goes away, so that's not great. But you know, it's a decent top end. 4/5 is a little small for 6 mana, but it does have menace, so it is tough to block and will often force them to block in unsavory ways. So I think it's like a C. Happy to have one of these in my deck, but I'm not super excited about it. Definitely not a first pick. Next up, we got Brash Taunter, 4 in a red for a Goblin at rare. It's a 1/1, so 5 mana for a 1/1. But it is indestructible, and whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. And you can pay 2 in a red and tap it to make Brash Taunter fight another target creature. So this is like a super annoying card, and like at the end of your turn, you can fight any big creature, yours or theirs, and whatever the power is of that creature, this will ping your opponent. So it's super annoying. There's a few ways to deal with it, like Scorching Dragonfire kills it, and the white 5 mana exile, get a 1/1 soldier takes care of it. But if you're like a red green deck, it's hard to get through this unless you have trample. Because if you have trample, then you only have to assign 1 damage to it, and then you get the rest of the damage, and then it will only deal 1 damage back. But yeah, but this is super annoying. You could first pick this. I could see that. So I think it's like a B plus, and I'd be happy to first pick it. It's not bad. Next up, we got Burn Bright for 2 in a red. It's an instant at common. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. So this is a really situational card. Like you have to already be attacking with a lot of creatures, or I mean, I guess blocking with creatures, but it doesn't save your creatures. I wish it gave toughness, but that's all red gets really. This is like a fixed trumpeting blast, I think it was called, where it said attacking creatures gets +2/+0. And one time I blew one of those at the beginning of combat before I declared attackers, and I didn't get any boost, and I ended up losing, which was annoying. So they fixed this a bit. I still don't like this. This is like a D, very situational. Bring it in out of your sideboard if you are against like a mill deck or something who's not putting any pressure on you. So I think it's a D. Next up, we got Chandra, Heart of Fire for 3 red. It's a legendary planeswalker Chandra at Mythic Rare. It's got 5 loyalty at the start. has a +1, discard your hand, then exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may play cards exiled this way. And +1, Chandra Heart of Fire deals 2 damage to any target. And -9, search your graveyard and library for any number of red instant and or sorcery cards. Exile them, then shuffle your library. You may cast them this turn. Add 6 red. So Chandra is just straight up bomb. If nothing else, it's like a shock factory. For 5 mana, you get to 2 stuff all day, and it pluses 1 for both abilities, which is really good. Unfortunately, the payoff at -9 isn't great, because really, what are you casting out of your limited deck? Like shocks and like 3 damage spells. Like, not excited about the ultimate. And constructed is probably pretty good. You can build around that. But in limited, you're not really feasibly going to be able to put enough burn spells to warrant doing it. So really, it's just like a shock factory, or when you're out of cards, you can draw 3 cards. So it does just make you discard your hand, but if you don't want to discard your hand, you just play the cards in your hand and shock something. So it's just really good. I think it's an A-, and of course, happy to first pick it. Next up, we got Chandra's Incinerator. For 5 and a red, it's a creature elemental at rare. It's a 6/6. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. Has trample, and whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Yeah, you can first pick this one for sure. It's not hard in a red deck to put a few non-combat damage stuff like shock. Like if you play shock, you get technically like a 1 mana discount on this plus the 2 damage. So because it deals the 2 damage and then makes this cost 2 less, the math checks out. 6/6 trample for 6. That's just plus upside is just what's it called? The Colossal Dreadmaw, but it has upside. This is good with I guess the Magmut, which is next. It's just a solid card. I think it's an A-, and I'd be happy to first pick it for sure. Next up, we got Chandra's Magmut. For 1 in a red, it's a elemental dog at common. It's a 2/2. It says tap Chandra's Magmut deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. So this is just your bread and butter red common. Pretty aggressive, and if you can't attack with it, you can still ping them for 1 at the end of turn. So that's not bad. I think it's a C+, and some of the cards in red want you to deal non-combat damage, so this is a source for that. So there you go. So C+ for Chandra's Magmut. Next up, we got Chandra's Pyreling. For 1 in a red, it's a elemental lizard at uncommon. It's a 1/3. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Pyreling gets +1/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. So, with this, you really want the Magmut or some other reputable source of non-combat damage, because a 1/3 for 2 is just like a D+. I'd say maybe just like a D. So if you have a bunch of non-combat damage spells and Magmuts and stuff like that, then this gets up to like a C+, because then it's like basically a 2/3 double striker, which it's pretty hard. So for a 2 mana card. So but without any like non-combat damage, it's like a D+. So it's a D+ or a C+, I would say. Next up, we got Conspicuous Snoop at red. It's a Goblin Rogue at rare. It's a 2/2, and it says play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast Goblin spells from the top of your library, and as long as the top card of your library is a Goblin card, Conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. So I counted, and there are 3 other Goblins in this set, at least in red, and only one of them has an activated ability, which is the Brash Taunter, which will let you fight something. So if you want to pay 3 mana to have this fight something, if that's on top of your deck, by all means. But this is just kind of not very good in this limited environment. It's more of an older constructed format card. There's some crazy combos with like Kiki Jiki and stuff. So maybe take it for value. I think it's worth a few bucks. But if you're not into the value and you really want to win, I would skip this one. It's like a D. It's a hard to cast bearer, so I would skip this one. So I'd give it a D. Next up, we got Crash Through for a red. It's a sorcery, a common. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Draw a card. So just a classic like cantrip. Does something minimal and draws you a card, which I guess the blue-red spells deck really likes this card. Trample is sometimes relevant, but often not. You're really just playing this for like a prowess trigger or something. So it's like a C minus, and you'll often cut it. So C minus, D plus. In the spells deck, I guess it's C minus, and just in a regular just red deck, it's just like a D plus. Next up, we got Destructive Tampering for 2 and a red. It's a sorcery at common. Choose one. Destroy target artifact or creatures without flying can't block this turn. I don't like this. They try to make it like quote unquote flexible for like best of one. Like you can either destroy an artifact or make it hard for them to block. But there's just better things you can do at 3 mana in this set. So I would skip this one usually. And if they don't have many flyers, maybe bring it in if you're really trying to be aggressive. But I would rather have a good creature than this sorcery. So I think this is just like a D. I'd say even D minus. It's so fringe when you want this in your deck. So yeah. Next up, we got Double Vision for 3 red. It's an enchantment at rare. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is a pretty good like commander card. You thought I was going to say limited card. But you really don't need this in limited. Like, what are you going to copy? Like a shock? Or maybe you get really lucky and you get the volcanic salvo or whatever it's called, which deals 6 damage to 2 different creatures. I mean, if you have a ton of huge red spells, maybe this gets you there, but this is a 5-mana do-nothing enchantment. Turn 5, you want to be developing your board, not just playing a do-nothing enchantment. So I would skip this. I think it's an F. I wouldn't play it. Next up, we got Fiery Emancipation for 3 red. 3 red. It's an enchantment, so 6 mana. It's an enchantment at Mythic Rare. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. So I was watching the limited resources review, and they talked about this card and how awful it is. And I completely disagree. I think this one can be really good in limited because you just like win. If by turn 6 and you're in a red deck, they're probably at like 10-ish life, maybe 11-ish life. Hopefully, if things are going well. And then if you have more attackers than they have blockers, then this just really pushes it over the edge. Like if you have a 3 power creature, it'll deal 9 damage. Totally nuts. If you have a 1 power creature, it deals 3. I mean, you know how to multiply by 3. It gets out of hand, and I like it a lot. And I would even give it like a B. I mean, yeah, your creatures might die, but their creatures are definitely going to die. So they say B. I think actually it's like a B plus. Yeah, I don't know why they gave it an F. I think they're way off on this one at limited resources, but they get a lot right, so I would still check them out. Next up, we got Furious Rise for 2 and a red. It's an enchantment at uncommon. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Rise. So it's that impulsive draw in red. And if you have a lot of creatures with power 4 or greater, I mean, you could totally play this and it would be pretty good. I don't really like impulsive draw because it kind of forces you to make a decision that you might not be optimal. And that's not good, like, because it's like, oh wait, I need to cast this now, or I'll just lose it forever. So I don't really like that. And says you may play that card, so you could play lands, which wouldn't be bad. So in your next turn, you can get a land off of it. But you really need to be able to trigger this each turn. So I'd rather usually play a 3-drop. I think this is like a C. Just in general, and if you have like 4, maybe 5 creatures that can trigger it, then it's probably a C plus even. So take that as you will. Next up, we got Furor of the Bitten. For a single red mana, it's an enchantment aura at common. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and attacks each combat if able. So this is like a huge boost. You can play it on like a 1-drop or 2-drop, and you're swinging in with like a 4-power creature on turn 2 and 3, which this can push through a lot of damage. And even if your creature dies, I mean, the damage is done. I like that, and it comes down early before they can have their like good common removal usually, unless they have like Grasp of Darkness, which could happen. But then you trade a dinky little creature for a removal spell, which is not bad. I think it's like a C. I have played it, and it was not bad. I put it on a Chandra's Incinerator, and it was an 8/8, which then immediately got capture sphered. But it, it forced them to use a card on it. So, I mean, it's not bad. Yeah, I think it's a C. So, I mean, it is an aura, and it comes down to auras, kind of suck, but I think it's a decent one. The drawback of having to attack each combat kind of sucks, but you're going to want to be attacking in red anyway. Next up, we got Gadrak, the Crown Scourge. 2 in a red for a legendary creature dragon at rare. It's a 5/4, has flying, and Gadrak, the Crown Scourge can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. And at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So this thing kind of just sits there and blocks for you for a while until you get enough treasure in order to attack with it. But you can just use the treasure to ramp. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from that, which I really like. I had it in that same game as this one, the Furor of the Bitten one, and I was never once able to attack with it in the 2 games that I was able to play it. But it's so easy to cast, and it just blocks everything. So I do really like it, and it just generates value for you, like with the treasure tokens, which is really nice. So I would give Gadrak just like a B-, and you could first pick it, and be I'd say B. I would give it a B, and you'd be moderately happy with it. If you get it early enough, you might want to draft some artifacts just to, to be able to attack with it a little more frequently. Next up, we got Goblin Arsonist for a red. It's a Goblin Shaman at common. It's a 1/1, and when it dies, you may have it deal 1 damage to any target. So just a solid 1-drop. Can take out 2 toughness stuff if in combat, and a good sacrifice target, and it's just a solid little 1-drop. I like Goblin Arsonist. I'd give it a C. It's just a solid little 1-drop, and can ping like the Selfless Saviors and the whatever 1/1 or X1 things that they have, so that's not bad. And this will often get through if they have 1 toughness stuff, just because they don't want it to just ping stuff when it dies, because you can point it at anything. So it's non-combat damage for the Chandra stuff as well. So C for Goblin Arsonist. Next up, Goblin Wizardry, 3 in a red for an instant at common. Create 2 1/1 red Goblin Wizard creature tokens with Prowess. And if you don't remember, Prowess is if you play a non-creature spell, the creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. So I do really like this. Gives 2 bodies for 4 mana with Prowess. It's a spell for the blue-red spells deck, which is nice. Plus it adds to the board. So I do like this one. I think it's a C+, especially in the blue-red spells deck. And you're happy to have one of these. It's nice that it's an instant too, so you can surprise people. Next up, we got Havoc Jester for 4 in a red. It's a devil at uncommon. It's a 5/5. Whenever you sack a permanent, Havoc Jester deals 1 damage to any target. So it's a 5-mana 5/5, which already is great. It's a good B for a good price, and meat is getting expensive, you guys. Let's be real. So you want to pay a premium, or you don't want to pay a premium for your 5/5. So 5/5 for 5 is good. And when you're sacking your Gadrak tokens or whatever, your treasure tokens, then you get to ping stuff. So that's not bad. Deals non-combat damage for stuff that cares about that. So I think you could first pick this. Not too happy about that, but in a bad pack, you could definitely take it. And over bad rares or lands or whatever, land rares. So I would give this one a B. I do like it. Next up, we got Heartfire Immolator for 1 and a red. It is a human wizard at uncommon. It's a 2/2, has prowess, and for a red, it sacrifices it. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. I think this is a really cool design. It reminds me of the Goblin Crater Maker, but it can be even better than that because it deals damage equal to its power, and the power can be pumped. So you can totally like Scorching Dragonfire or something, and then sack this for a mana and deal 3 damage to something else. So, or just kill a 6/6 like that. So, like those greater Gargadons or whatever the hell they're called. So, which I would be happy to 2-for-1 myself to kill. So yeah, it's a good card. I think it's a B, and I'd be happy to have it in all my red decks. Next up, we got Hellkite Punisher for 5 red. It's a dragon at uncommon. It's a 6/6 with flying, and it has, fire breathing. You pay a red, and it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So solid finisher in red. Red doesn't really want to play 7 mana stuff, but if you're in like a red-green ramp deck or something, this is a solid finisher. In that deck, it's like a B-, and just, I mean, they have to kill it, or you're just going to feed all your red mana into it and deal, 9 to 12 damage. So that could be really devastating. Could end games. Wish it had trample, but if you're in red-green, you can give it trample in a couple different ways. So it's just solid. I give it a B-. Next up, we got Hobble Fiend for 1 and a red. Is a devil at common. It's a 2/1. It has trample, and it says pay 1 and sacrifice another creature. Put a 1/1 counter on Hobble Fiend. So you can kind of attack with this with abandon, without abandon, whatever the saying is, because if they block it, you'll just sack a creature and you'll pump it. The threat of activation is real. I do like it, but you do have to pay mana for the sack outlet, even though it's just one mana versus free is a big deal. But it is really cheap, so it has that going for it. Good in the black-red sack deck, and if you have sack payoffs, then more power to you. So I think it's a C+ in the sack deck, and then in just any red deck, it's just a C, really. Next up, we got Igneous Cur for 1 and a red. It's an elemental dog at common. It's a 1/2. You can pay 1 and a red to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. So, yeah, I like Igneous Cur. I mean, it's not great, but it pines with the red-white uncommon, signpost uncommon, which it can search this out of your library and put it into your hand. Threat of activation is real, so they're not going to want to block this. And you can use your mana to pump it, or you can use your mana to do something else. So that's up to you. It's not bad. I'd give it like a C. Next up, we got Kinetic Auger for 3 and a red. It's a human shaman at uncommon. It's a star 4 with trample. Its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, and when it enters the battlefield, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. So it's a discard outlet / draw outlet. You can get rid of your lands, and then hopefully you don't draw 2 more lands. Or you can discard 2 spells, which I want to play my spells. But it's optional. It says discard up to 2 cards. So this will often be like a 1/4, maybe a 2/4. But if you, are in a heavy spells deck, like 8 to 10 spells or something, then it's a really good card. And it has trample, so that's not bad. I kind of wish it was like a 1/1 that gets +1/+1 for each thing, but 4 toughness is not bad on this kind of creature, so reminds me of like Crackling Drake and stuff, which was pretty good. So it's easy to cast, 3 in a red, and just wants you to put spells in your deck. So it's kind of a build around. In a regular, just red stuff deck, I would probably give it like I'd give it like a C-, because you really want some spells. But in the spells deck, it goes all the way up to a C+. You really want a lot of these in or a few of them in your spells deck. Next up, we got Onaki Ogre. It's for 2 and a red. It's a 4/2 Ogre Warrior at common. So Onaki Ogre is decent in this set, actually, just because there's a few different 4-power creature payoffs. Actually, there's a fair amount of them. So for 3 mana, you can trigger all that stuff. Not bad. Plus, it hits pretty hard. So I do like Onaki Ogre. Unfortunately, it trades for like 2 drops. But if they don't have anything out, this can hit pretty hard. So I'd give Onaki Ogre like a C in the set. Next up, we got Pitchburn Devils for 4 and a red. It's a devil at common. It's a 3/3, and when it dies, it deals 3 damage to any target. So this is an example of a card that's they really don't want to block or kill, just because like if they block it, it'll kill whatever blocked it plus something else. So it's often like a 2-for-1. This takes out 6 toughness stuff, which there's some of that. There's some 7 toughness stuff, which is annoying, but there's like that 8/6 in black that costs 7 mana that this can kill if they block it with that. So yeah, I do like Pitchburn Devils. It's kind of stinks that it's 5 mana for a 3/3, but it's a good sack target kind of, and I don't really like paying 5. I think it's like a C- in most red decks. C-. Next up, we got Sanctum of Shattered Heights for 2 and a red. It's a legendary enchantment shrine at uncommon. It says pay 1 and discard a land card or shrine card. Sanctum of Shattered Heights deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrines you control. So without shrines, this is a total F. Would not play this. And if you have 2 or 3 shrines, I guess you would play it just to trigger the other shrine stuff, but I don't want to be discarding shrines, and you often need lands. So, I mean, I guess you could discard a land, but this is your only shrine. It deals 1 damage. So, do you want to discard a card, pay 1, and deal 1 damage? I don't know. I don't like this one. I think it's an F. And if you're in the shrine deck, it's like a D+. Next up, we got Scorching Dragonfire for 1 and red. It's an instant at common. Scorching Dragonfire deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Yeah, I like Scorching Dragonfire. You could definitely first pick it. It's like a B. Just really solid common removal that you'll jam as many of these as you get into your red decks. So take as many of these as you get, as you can see. Next up, we got Shock for a red mana. It's an instant at common. It deals 2 damage to any target. So sick of them printing Shock just because of Constructed. I'm so sick of this in Constructed. It's so efficient and deals 2 damage for 1 mana. That's just good. And you know, it takes out a lot of early creatures, which is not bad. Plus, it can just nug your opponent for 2. Counts as non-combat damage, so that's not bad. Shock is like a C. You know, you'll put 1 or 2 in your deck and feel decent about it. Next up, we got Soul Seer for 2 and a red. It's an instant at uncommon. Deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. So this can kill the Brash Taunter. Brash Taunter. But you'll take 5 for it. But I mean, it might be worth it. Excuse me. So in that sense, the 5 damage is a downside, but 3 mana for 5 damage and instant speed is great, and I would probably take it over Scorching Dragonfire if they're both in the pack. Yeah, I would do that. 5 damage is a lot more than 3. It's exactly 2 more if I do my math correctly. So yeah, take this. Take as many as you find if you're in red. Next up, we got Spellgorger Weird for 2 and a red. It's a weird at common. It's a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Spellgorger Weird. So this was like a 2-card cycle with there was a blue one that got you spells back from your graveyard, which is in the art over here. Kind of weird that they didn't print both of them, but this is just a good spells payoff. So if you're in the spells deck, you want as many of these as you can get. And if you're in a regular red deck, I suppose you can play it, and if you have like a Shock or 2 or a Soul Seer or a Scorching Dragonfire, then this just naturally gets bigger, and then you're 3 mana for a 3/3. You know, this just grows over time and not bad. So I give it a C+. Next up, we got Subira Tolzidi Caravaner. Oh man, the name of this card is just funny. Okay. It's 2 and a red for a legendary creature, human shaman at rare. It's a 2/3, it has haste. You can pay 1, another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. You can pay 1 in red and tap it. Discard your hand until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is really good in a red aggressive deck. Otherwise, if you're in like a bigger red deck, it's not great. You can still play it. 3 mana for a 2/3 haste is pretty good. And it makes all your little dudes unblockable, so that can push through a lot of damage. Yeah, if you first pick this, try to stay low to the ground and just be an aggro deck, I guess. I'd give it a B, and especially in the red aggro deck, or red X aggro deck. Next up, we got Sure Strike for 1 in a red. It's an instant at common. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike till end of turn. So this will pretty much win you any combat. And if you want to win any combat, then put this in your deck. If you don't care about attacking really and you're doing something else, don't put it in your deck. And it's a spell, so that helps with the spell payoffs. It's just a C, and you're happy to have one of these in your deck. Exactly one. Next up, we got Terror of the Peaks for 3 and red. It's a dragon at mythic rare. It's a 5/4. Has flying. Spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So, I mean, this is, I guess, okay, come on. It's an A+. This is like maybe the best card in the set for limited. I mean, it slices and dices. I mean, it's just gonna just nail anything. Like, it even punishes them for killing it for 3 life. I mean, they have to deal with this, or they just lose like within the next turn or two. Because whenever you play your 2-drop, your 3-drop, your 4-drop, whatever you draw off the top, you deal that much damage and power to anything. So whatever's in your way. Plus, this hits for 5 by itself. So it's just an A+. Just take it. And if it's like pack 3 and you're in like green, black, and you see this, I would splash it, honestly. Like, I would just play it in every deck that you ever have. It's so good. Okay, just take it. Next up, we got Thrill of Possibility for 1 in red. It's an instant at common. It's additional cost to cast this spell. Discard a card. Draw 2 cards. So I'd play this in the spells deck or the draw 2 deck, but otherwise I would skip it. You're going to cut this pretty often. Next up, we got, oh, did I even grade it? It's like a C in the spells deck and in the draw cards deck, but it's like a D in every other deck. I'd regularly cut it. Next up, we got Traitorous Greed for 3 in red. It's a sorcery. Uncommon, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. Add 2 mana of any one color. So it basically costs 2 mana. It's weird because it fixes your mana because you can add any color, not just like red or whatever. So that's pretty cool. So you can steal their creature for 4 mana and then play Village. What's it called? Village Rites, I think it's called, the black, where you sack a creature and draw 2 cards. So you spent 2 cards to do that, but you draw 2 cards, so you're breaking even really. And they lose a creature, so you're even up a card, which is nice. So that's a nice little combo. This is pretty good in obviously the red-black sack deck. Happy to have 1 or even 2 of these in that deck. So in that deck, it's like a B-, and in every other deck, it could be an annoying card for your opponent. I have definitely lost to this already. They stole my Colossal Dreadmaw and smacked me with it twice because they had 2 of them, which was a little tilting. So B-, Traitorous Greed. Next up, we got Transmogrify for 3 in red. It's a sorcery at rare. Exile target creature. That creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. That player puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles the rest into their library. I'm going to pass on this one. You could try to upgrade your random token into a real card, or try to get rid of their Terror of the Peaks and get a 2-drop, but that's a really unreliable situation, and you could really end up biting yourself in the butt. Like you're 2-for-1ing yourself, like you have to exile a creature, exile one of your creatures, and this card you use to get a random card off your deck. So I don't like it. I'm pretty sure it's enough. I would not play this card. Next up, we got Turn to Slag for 3 red. It's a sorcery at common. Turn to Slag deals 5 damage to target creature. Destroy all equipment attached to that creature. Not too many equipment in this set, but there are a few, like the Malefic Scythe, which it would be really nice to kill the creature and that. That'd be cool. And if you don't even kill the creature, it still destroys the equipment. So, I mean, you really want to be killing something with this, obviously. 5 mana for 5 damage is okay, and it's at common, so you'll see 1 or 2 of these per draft, and you'll take it pretty happily. So it's decent removal. It's just like it's a C+, I would say. Next up, we got Turn Ogre for 3 and a red is a Ogre Warrior at common. It's a 4/3. It has reach. Don't forget it has reach. I always do. When Tur Ogre enters the battlefield, if you control another creature with power 4 or greater, Tur Ogre deals 2 damage to each opponent. So another 4 power payoff, but the payoff isn't that amazing. So if you don't have that many 4 power stuff, still probably put it in your deck. It's a decent rate. 4/3 for 4 is okay, and it has reach. So, and that's gonna get me. I'm gonna always forget his reach. So it's just like a C. You'll put it in your decks and feel okay about it. Next up, we got Unleashed Fury for 1 in red. It's an instant at uncommon. Double the power of target creature until end of turn. It's debatable whether this is better than Double Strike. Double Strike is probably better because you can first strike something to death and save your creature. But doubling the power, especially on a big creature with trample, could be good. So it goes pretty much in the red-green, like, big stuff deck. But otherwise, it's just kind of a mediocre combat trick. So it's like a C-, I would say. Next up, we got the Volcanic Geyser X red for an instant at uncommon. Volcanic Geyser deals X damage to any target. So it's an instant, which is nice. You can just get them at the end of their turn, or when they're tapped out, or whenever they're tapped out, you can just dome them for 6 or 8 damage, however much mana you have. So solid finisher. You could use it to kill anything. So any target is. It's nice that this is really flexible. So I think this is like a B-, and pretty happy to have it in any red deck, really. Next up, we got a Volcanic Salvo for 10 red. It's a sorcery at rare. Spell cost X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. Volcanic Salvo deals 6 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. So hopefully you have a lot of big power stuff in your deck, or this is just going to cost a ton of mana, and this is pretty bad if you're really far behind and don't have many creatures. Then you just might not be able to cast it. But if you can cast it, it's a huge blowout. 6 damage kills almost everything. There's like 2, maybe, I think there's like 2 or 3 7 toughness stuff. There's like 2 in blue and like 1 in the green, I think. But it kills most anything. It has a few in blue. It's like 3 in blue, I don't know. So yeah, it kills 2 things for 1 card, so it's always a 2-for-1, which is solid. So you could first pick this. I'd give it a B, with the caveat that it could be just a dead card. Yeah, that's all I got for red, you guys. Red looks really good. I really do like it. Next time we're gonna do green, and it's gonna be fun because green has got some cool stuff. So until next time, thanks for watching, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. See you later.